Hello everybody. Today we are going to be learning about volcanoes. So in your Edmodo, you are going to scroll until you get to the post that says volcanoes. Right here. So we have the link for the reading, we have our practice questions, and we have my email that you can send your answers to. So let's take a look at volcanoes. So the picture here, this is actually the largest volcano in the universe. Um, it is on Mars. It is called Olympus Mons, and it is a shield volcano. And Olympus Mons is actually 3 times the height of Mount Everest. Sorry, having a hard time pronouncing things this morning. But it has gentle slopes. So a volcano, you're probably familiar with, but this is the way it is described. A volcano is a vent from which the material from a magma chamber escapes. So the magma is stored underground, and when a volcano erupts, that is when the magma escapes through this vent or this hole. So some of the things that escape, we're familiar with the magma escaping, and when it comes to the surface, it's actually called lava. So when it's underneath the surface, it's called magma. When it comes above the surface, we call it lava. So a few things can actually come out of a volcano vent. So we can have lava, obviously. We can have rock fragments. We can have ash, and we can have gases. So volcanic eruptions, they can come from many types of structures. And this has to do with volcanoes aren't always these large peaky cones, but they can just have different shapes. All right. So where can we find volcanoes? Well, volcanoes, they're very common along convergent and divergent plate boundaries, and they can also be found at hotspots, which we'll talk about in the future. So the Pacific Ocean Basin is the most likely place to find volcanoes. Just for the fact there are a lot of plate boundaries, and this is where the Pacific Ring of Fire is, okay? Very common to see volcanoes in that area. So it talks about a lot of structures, a lot of different structures, and I will let you look at those when you read this on your own. But Hawaii is going to be, it's actually made of volcanoes from a volcanic hotspot. So, volcanoes erupt because mantle rock melts. So the first stage, this is the first stage in making a volcano. So how does the rock melt? So the rock can melt because of a rise in temperature. It can also melt if the pressure on the rock decreases, because that is going to lower its melting point. Melting point is something we talk about a lot in chemistry, and when you change pressure, you change something's melting point. The temperature, the melting temperature or melting point of a rock can also go down if water is added. And then Yeah. So yeah, a lot of things can change the material's melting point. So there are a few phases of the volcano. There's active, where it is erupting or showing signs of erupting. There's dormant, where it has no activity, but it might have recently erupted. And there's extinct, so no activity for some time and probably not likely to erupt again. So make sure you finish your questions and turn them into me.